As I was preparing for this year and, this morning, I just was really trusting and reminded, the start of a new year is sometimes an anxious time for a lot of people. It is, I was chatting to Marianne this morning, it is for me, it's an anxious time, the beginning of a new year, and it's not supposed to be. But it is, and you've got people that are setting New Year's resolutions and goals and strategies, and all that stuff's great, and I've got nothing wrong with it, but it's like, for me, it causes a lot of anxiety. I'm planning to be a better everything, and I'm doing this better, and it's like hectic. It's quite anxious, and we started a Bible plan, Nix and myself, during the holidays, reading the Bible, and I was asking, for me personally, for 2024, I was like, what do I want for this year? What do I want for the 2024? What do I want? And I think it's a important question, even for all of us to actually ask ourselves and to answer, because when you know what you want, you know what you're fighting for. So if you can identify, this is what I want, this is what I'm trusting for, this is what I'm holding on for, this is the victory I want to see in 2024, then you can fight for that thing, because it's something you can see, you know what it is, and you can go for it. And for me, in asking that question to myself, asking myself, what do you want? I was just reminded of a preach that Paul Campbell preached, my friend from Knysna, and it was a couple of years ago, long before he even took over the church. And the preach was about being captivated by Jesus, captivated by who he is, being filled with awe and wonder of who he is and what he's done, being captivated by him. And in that moment, I knew that's what I want for 2024. I want to be captivated by Jesus in everything. I want to be filled with awe and wonder again of who he is and what he's done. And 2023 for us as a family was a really hard year. It was a difficult year for many, and it was a hard year. And lots of trials and temptation and loss and dealing with stuff and disappointment and so much stuff. And looking back, you can see God is faithful, and you can see Jesus' hand in things. And, in hindsight, you can see he's there through it all. But in the moments, there's still this feeling of loneliness and abandonment and God, why have you forsaken me? And you still have those moments. And I've just, for myself, committed for 2024. I was like, Lord, I know those moments are probably going to be around in 2024 as well. But in those moments, I want to be captivated by you. In the hurt and in the loss and in the trial, I want to be filled with awe and wonder of who you are and what you've done. I want to be captivated by you all the time. Not just a few times a year when someone comes to preach or when we go to an equip and we get filled with faith. It's like, no, all the time I want to be captivated by who you are. And, in thinking this and, trying to figure out what I was going to talk about this morning, I was quite challenged, I really believe, by Jesus, just like with this the topic I want to speak about today, challenged for my own life. So I kind of figured if I was going to be challenged and have to work through some stuff, that you also need to be challenged and work through some stuff. So what I want to talk about this morning is this topic of integrity. So integrity, most of us know what the word is, a big thing for anyone, businessman, anyone, but a big thing in the life of a believer is integrity. And before we look at what it is, I want to just spend some time talking what it's not. You see, integrity is not perfection. To live a life of integrity is not to live a perfect life. If that was the case, none of us would be able to do it. Jesus would be the only one who lived a life of integrity. It would be unobtainable for us. It's not perfection. We all make mistakes, we all slip, we all stumble. Integrity is more about our response to those times than it is about the actual failings. Integrity can sometimes be confused with reputation. And while our integrity affects our reputation, integrity and reputation are not the same thing. You see, our reputation is what other people think of us or sometimes what we make other people think of us. That's our reputation. You see, reputation is easily molded and changed and shaped. I found that in high school. I was bullied in primary school, and when I moved town, I moved to high school, and I said, I'm not going to be bullied again in high school. So I shaped my reputation around something that people would fear. I made people believe something of me that wasn't true, that wasn't me. And it's because that's what we can do, and that's reputation. Reputation is what other people think of you or what you make other people think of you. Where integrity is who you really are. You see, integrity is who you are when no one is watching. That's what integrity is. When we were just married 10, 11, 12-ish years ago, I should have got that right in my notes. But when we were just married, before we had kids, if you know Nix, it's always been a dream, and it still is a dream, to go to New York in the wintertime. Yeah? In the winter, in December. And we had this opportunity. I had started working with my father-in-law, and we were running an import business. We were importing mainly lights for the mining sector. But through connections and stuff, I happened along this guy who wanted to do an import. And my father-in-law said, he can help me, and this can be my first kind of transaction or my first import that I'll run on my own. And it was this guy. It was going to be a very lucrative once-off kind of deal, which was awesome. And he was importing a shipment of shoes, of ladies' shoes. And it was going to be great because I said to Monique, like, look, this is like a windfall, a once-off income. It's not part of our salary. I think we can do our New York trip. And we said we planned everything. We got the visas. We went to Cape Town, did the interviews. We couldn't afford accommodation. It wasn't that much money. But we found this website where you could swap homes. It's called Love Home Swap for anyone who's interested. But so you find someone in New York who's like keen to come to Plet. And we were in Plet keen to go to New York. Made contact and we're like, okay, well, you come stay at our house. We'll go stay at your house. And we made the arrangements. They were coming, we were going, visas, everything sorted. And quite far down the process, I can't remember if it was a question that was asked or how we found out, but I was like, this is a lot of shoes. Like, what's the deal with the shoes? And he was like, no, he runs a business in the entertainment industry that uses these shoes. He's owns a string of gentlemen's clubs. I don't know if they're still around anymore. It was Teasers in Joburg. And that's what and immediately, there was, no one spoke to me about it, but immediately there was a conflict in myself. There was I'm not sure. And, we had eventually made the decision not to go ahead. But we had made all these arrangements. So literally the people from New York, they came, they stayed in our home. We moved into my office for 3 weeks. It wasn't quite New York. But we were there and we made good friends and they're lovely and they said, we're still welcome anytime. So we are still going to go to New York. But the thing was, and whether it was a right or wrong business deal, I don't know. I can't say. Business, if you sell something to someone and they do with it what they... That's nothing, but for me, it wasn't what anyone else thought of it. It was inside myself. There was a conflict. And so it's for all of us, it's inside yourself to sort out that conflict within ourselves. And this is not I've got a lot more stories of all my moral failings. This one just fitted with what I wanted to say this morning, so please don't look at me as some man that's holy and righteous and full of integrity. I make mistakes all the time. You see, integrity is who you are when no one's watching. The root word of integrity is integer. So it's a Latin word. The root word is integer. And the meaning of that is it's a state of being complete or whole. It is defined as being unbroken or undivided in completeness. It literally means to be one. So when you're in conflict with yourself, you are broken because part of you wants to do this, part of you wants to do this. You are broken. You're in conflict. Integrity is to be one, to be whole, to be undivided, to be complete. Integrity means to live a life that is complete, that is undivided. To live a life of integrity means to live a life integrated as one. But our lives generally don't look like that. Our lives generally look quite sectioned off. If you look at the life of a believer, it's quite sectioned off and lived in parts. If you show that first picture, Josh. You see, we have a life that looks something like this. We've got a church life that we live on a Sunday morning here with all of these people, but that life looks very different to the life that we live on Friday with our social life, which in turn is very different to what's going on at home with our family. And then, then we've got these other things. We've got this private life that no one knows about. And we're living there as well. And interestingly, the private life is where our integrity gets revealed the most, because that's who we really are, is there. And you see, this is a life that is separated, that is divided, that is broken up into all these pieces, where you're trying to live like this here and live like that there, live like this in front of these people and live like that in front of those people. It is a life that is divided. It's not whole. This is not a picture of integrity. Remember, integrity means to be whole, to be one. An integrated life looks more like this. That's picture 2. An integrated life for a believer is a life where Jesus is at the center of everything we do, where Jesus directs all of our lives. He directs how we act in church. He directs how we act in our workplace. He directs how we respond in our families. He directs how I spend my time in private when no one is looking. He directs it. It's a life that is of oneness, that is whole, that is complete, and He is at the center. Interestingly enough, this is something I read per chance offhand, but the greatest confession, and the Jews base their whole thing on this. It says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one." I've never understood that before. The Lord your God is one. It's like, okay, yeah, one God. But it's not just saying He's one. It's saying He is one. He is whole. He is undivided. He is complete. He is holy. He is one. When we call to live a life of integrity, it's a life of oneness, of wholeness, with Jesus at the center. Integrity is when your private life matches up to your public life, when what you do in private is the same that you would do in public. It's when your actions match your beliefs. When I believe something, then I act that way, I do that way. If I say this is who I am, well, then that's how I act. If I say I believe I'm a good father, then I act like a good father. It's when your actions line up with your beliefs. So when your actions don't line up with your beliefs, that's the opposite of integrity, am I right? What's another word? Not a high grade, come on guys. Opposite of integrity. Actions don't line up with your belief. Hypocrisy. You're a hypocrite. Hypocrisy. One of the greatest accusations of the world against the church. The greatest accusation against believers. Don't want to go to church because those Christians are a bunch of hypocrites. Most time people are right. You see, but the irony is that Jesus in Scripture talks very harshly about hypocrites. He's harder on hypocrites than he is on prostitutes. He's harder on hypocrites than he is on adulterers. A hypocrite, because a hypocrite is not someone who is whole. It's someone who is divided. In Matthew 23, verse 25, this is what Jesus says about hypocrites. He's talking to the Pharisees. He says, "What sorrow awaits you, teachers of religious law, and you Pharisees, you hypocrites! For you are careful to clean the outside of the cup and the dish. You're careful to show the outside. You're careful to make sure what people are seeing is good. You're careful to put up this front. You're careful to put on this falseness in front of people. But inside, you are filthy, full of greed and self-indulgence. It says, you blind Pharisee, first wash the inside of the cup and the dish, and then the outside will become clean too. You see, Jesus is hard on them not only because they were selfish and self-indulgent. He's hard on them because they were saying they weren't that way, but then they were that way. Can you see that? It's not just because of the life they were living, because people in the scripture that Jesus meets and bumps into are living really bad lives, and he never comes down on them like this. But it's the Pharisees knew the truth. They were proclaiming the truth in the law, but then had something very different in their hearts. They were hypocrites. Jesus was saying to them, it's not only what's on the outside. Sometimes the outside is important, but it's what's on the inside that really matters the most. If you put up that picture again of Jesus in the center, Jamil. It's on the inside that matters. When we are absolutely captivated by Jesus, when he rules our internal life, when we are whole and full of him, when he is on the inside of the cup, he directs what happens on the outside. We don't need to worry about the outside of the cup when he's on the inside. It's not something, you won't have to polish the outside of the cup. You won't have to put on the false veneer and everything. When he's in the cup, the outside is clean, looks good, is attractive to people. There was a really good example I heard a little while ago. It's about a builder. So he builds these luxury homes, and he has a 40-year career building these mansions, these luxury homes. And 35 years in, he goes to the CEO of the company and he says, listen, Mr. Bossman, I've got 5 years left. I've given you 35. I've got 5 more, and then I'm retiring. I want to enjoy, my old age. I want to enjoy my wife, my grandkids. I'm retiring. And they say, cool. And he says, it's 4 years left. And he says, listen, 4 years left, 3 years left. Listen, I've got 3 years left. So it's the last year. And he says, listen, this is my last year building homes for you guys. Please, I'm retiring. And at the end of the 40 years, the CEO, boss man, comes to me and says, listen, we value you so much and you are so good at what you do. I've got one last favor to ask you. Won't you build us this last house? Won't you take on this last project for us? And the builder is visibly upset, irritated, actually offended. He's like, I've given you guys the 40 of the best years of my life. I've told you for 5 years this day was coming. I just want to retire. And the CEO says to him, please, you know how much our friendship is, like how much we value you and how much, our friendship is like, I wouldn't ask you this if it wasn't important. Please, would you build this last house for us? And the builder says, yes, okay, I'll build it. But he doesn't put his heart into it. And he cuts corners and he uses subpar materials and he gets it done faster than he ever has before. And in 40 years, he's never built a house of such poor quality. From the outside, it looks the same as all the others. It looks magnificent. In the inside, he knows in 40 years, I've never built such a poor house. And at the end of the project, when everyone's looking and marveling at the house, the CEO, boss man, comes up to him and says, I just want to honor you for the 40 years that you've faithfully served us. You've been so valuable and instrumental in this company. As a gift, I want to give you these keys. And this is your house. And the builder realizes in that moment what we will all realize one day is that we are building our own houses. We build our own houses. Every decision we make, every interaction with people we have, we are building our own houses. It's going to be for this life and the life to come. We're building our own houses. For the parents, I'm a parent. And I want to mention this specifically for us. You know, this thing of integrity and this thing of putting on masks and pretending, we can fool so many people. Man, it's easy to fool people. I can fool Charles, you can fool me, you can fool your friends, you can fool anyone. People, you're not going to fool your children. Those oaks do not miss a thing. Fastest way to raise rebellious children, children that want nothing to do with church, children that want nothing to do with the things of God, is to act one way here and then act a different way at home. They will see through it immediately. We are building our own houses. We're going to be living there for a long, long time. We need to build well. In closing, I want to leave us with 3 practical points. We're talking about practical stuff, practical Christianity, of what it means to live with integrity. Number 1, integrity means telling the truth even when it hurts. Proverbs 22 says this, verse 1, it says, "A good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver and gold." A good name is more desirable than riches. Your integrity is more important than your money. Always. You cannot put a price on it. You cannot put a price on the truth. Telling a half-truth is a lie. You lose your integrity. Telling a story in a way that makes you look like the hero is a lie. You lose your integrity. Embellishing on stories, I'm quite guilty of this, to make them seem more interesting is a lie. You can lose your integrity. If I tell you a story that Charles was there and Charles was like looking, it's like, cheapers, that doesn't sound like the story. I was there. What are you talking about? It's like immediately I've lost my integrity with Charles. He's going to look at me and says, "Well, I can't trust anything out your mouth because I was there." That's not how the story went. A good name is more desirable than great riches. Number 2, keeping your word. Let your yes be your yes. This Matthew 5, verse 36. It says, "Do not even say, 'By my head,' for you can't turn one hair white or black. Just say a simple 'Yes, I will,' or 'No, I won't.' Anything beyond this is from the evil one." You don't have to, "I swear on my mother's grave I will be there. I swear to, I promise by the..." It says that is from the evil one. That's from the devil. So all you need to say is yes or no. And let your yes be your yes and your no be your no. When you commit to something, do it. Every time, on time, all the time, do it. When you say something, make sure it's done. If you say you're going to be somewhere, don't be the person that leaves people wondering if you're actually going to be there. If you say you're going to be somewhere, be there. Be on time, all the time, every time. A lot of people struggle in this area because just as a generation, we probably talk more than any other generation before us, and talk is cheap. I mean, it's easy to talk. It's easy to say something and not follow through because everyone does it. It's easy just to say something. We bump into people during the holidays all the time. "Oh, so good to see you. We haven't seen each other. Let's braai this week." Okay, cool. See you next year, bud. Talk is cheap. Watch your words. Think carefully before you say something. If you don't mean it, don't say it. That's integrity. Make fewer promises. If you make a promise, let a promise be something that means something. Don't promise on random things. If you're going to promise something, promise it. If you can't do something, don't say you can. Learn to say no. So many people lose their integrity just because they're scared to say no. So you say yes, even though you mean no, and you lose your integrity because you're just afraid of saying no to something. It's okay to say no. Josh is here. Honor Josh with this. With kids, it's funny. A kid does not forget anything. And I mean, like Noah will be like, Dad, remember that time you told me to pack away the towels and then you'd take me surfing? He says, yeah, well, it's been 3 weeks and you haven't taken me surfing yet. What's the deal? They do not forget anything. And Josh has been incredible with this. He won't make a promise to my children. He won't say anything to them unless he means it. If he says, like, it's gold. If he says, I'm taking you swimming, the boys know we're going swimming. It's like, even I'm guilty. I'm not as good as Josh in this area. He will not say it unless he does it, because he knows they remember. Make sure your actions match your beliefs. This is a really cool saying, but I can't claim it because I didn't think about it, but I heard this. It says, become a prisoner of your own convictions. Become a prisoner to your own convictions. That is incredible. People don't have to police you. The elders, leaders, no one has to come and check up on you because you're a prisoner to your own convictions. Your own convictions will police you. If a conviction is you're not going to steal, then don't steal. Nothing. Don't ever steal. Not a pen, not a ream of paper from your work. Don't steal time. If you don't have permission to leave work early, don't leave early. If you're not sick, don't call in a sick day. That's stealing. Be honest. Be faithful. Let your convictions hold you prisoner. In closing, integrity is when we're whole, undivided, with Jesus at the center of our lives. It's the only way to live a life of integrity is when we put Jesus in the center, when we put him on the inside of the cup. It's the only way for the outside to look good, is when he's on the inside. We need to live a life of integrity. As believers, we need to be captivated by him. I'm going to close with this, with a psalm, Shal. It's Psalm 15. It says, the Psalm of David, it says, who may worship in your sanctuary, Lord? Who may enter your presence on your holy hill? Who? This is the answer. It says, those who lead blameless lives and do what is right, speaking the truth from sincere hearts, those who refuse to gossip or to harm their neighbors or to speak evil of their friends, those who despise flagrant sinners and honor the faithful followers of the Lord and keep their promises even when it hurts, those who lend money without charging interest and who cannot be bribed to lie about the innocent. So such people with that integrity will stand firm forever.